Hey y'all, welcome back to Progressive Politics, a show where we break down the most critical issues happening in Oklahoma.
This week, we're looking at workers' rights and book bans.
On October 19th, Non-Doc and News 9 will moderate a live debate.
Then get out of office.
Some of us had a day off this week, so I hope you thanked a labor union member. Let's get into the recap. This week, we're looking at workers' rights and book bans. Labor Day was awesome. The big thing that is super important whenever it comes to Labor Day is we're starting to see a new labor movement, right? And it's all led by young people, and it's all happening at Starbucks.
Starbucks costs too much, and if the people aren't getting paid enough, then where the fuck is all this money going?
Absolutely.
It can't be the Asai. The Oklahoman released a list of books that have been banned or proposed to be banned in Oklahoma public schools. The list includes books written by authors born in Oklahoma.
With HB 1775, right? We're now banning books in schools. The next part that comes after that is libraries. So, and it's really just about how much you can get away with. You're going to start seeing this in schools. That builds this educational prospect in the community to be like, this shouldn't be acceptable anywhere, right? We're habituating folks. So they also banned The Outsiders, which is one thing that we read back in high school. And I think the only reason they did that is because it represents class war.
I grew up in Tulsa, so went to public schools. It's, our relative history. Read the book and then we watched the whole movie in my 7th grade literature class. But nothing about it necessarily deemed it worthy of being banned.
So Stitt dropped a new campaign ad and tried to reframe Oklahoma's failures as success. Kevin Stitt talks about freedom, Joe Biden, and Oklahoma's turnaround, but he fails to mention that we are number 4 in COVID death rates, and our economic growth has been trash relative to other states.
Are stressed.
A country in crisis, hitting families hard thanks to Joe Biden. But in Oklahoma, a reason for hope. One man is standing up to Biden's radical agenda. Can't risk letting the radical left ruin Oklahoma like they're ruining the country. With Kevin Stitt as governor, we'll keep Oklahoma's turnaround.
A country in crisis.
Country in crisis.
It's just how are you going to make an ad as the governor of Oklahoma and not include literally any footage of actual Oklahoma? Like this leftist, whatever the freak he was talking about. That was obviously a video of New York City or DC or Seattle or a place that isn't here.
I would love to see him, Abbott, and DeSantis make a video.
Yes,
the holy trinity of fuck ups.
Yeah.
Please.
I did not see a single drop of melanin in this entire television advertisement.
No, except for the radical left. Masked up, throwing Molotov cocktails, which has never happened in Oklahoma.
They look pretty white to me.
I think they secretly want us to burn everything down. I think that's what they actually want.
I mean,
we won't give it to them.
But speaking of Kevin Stitt anyways, get the popcorn because Stitt and Joy, the debate is on. On October 19th, Non-Doc and News 9 will moderate a live debate between Kevin Stitt and Joy Hofmeister. A separate pre-recorded conversation will include Libertarian candidate Natalie Bruno and Independent candidate Dr. Irvin Yin. I feel like with them debating, he's not going to be able to carry a debate, let alone a conversation with Joy.
For sure.
I don't know. I can see Joy kind of keeping her composure and just making him look like an absolute psychopath. So
I am honestly just ready to watch him fuck up.
Top 10 news for sure.
Let me back this up for a moment. There are very obvious questions that to be asked from the governor, how do you feel about what happened about securitization, right? If he gets hit with the Julius Jones question, if he gets hit with all of the bullshit, what happened with Panasonic? There's just problem after problem after problem after problem.
Yeah, why doesn't he listen to the Pardon and Parole Board, which he appointed to grant clemency? Just completely ignored the recommendation of the board that he appointed. In October of last year, State Superintendent Joy Hofmeister calls for suspension of further executions in Oklahoma. So I think she's kind of on the, realistic basis of Oklahoma is not good at carrying out executions. We fuck them up more than we do them correctly. She said this latest example of a botched execution should give all Oklahomans serious concerns about the state's ability to properly administer the death penalty.
And like I feel like he's gonna trash the fact that she was a Republican, and like just that's like I feel like that's the only thing he's gonna use to like try to counter whatever she's saying to him. And like you're not gonna be talking about policy, you're not gonna be talking about real issues or laws you pass. The only thing you're gonna trope is the fact that she used to be a Republican and now she's a Democrat. She still knows how to think like a Republican. He, however, is going to be completely fucking blindsided and not know what to do, like a dog with his tail tucked between his fucking legs.
Joy at the Edmond Democratic Women's Forum during the primary was like, I am aggressively moderate, which to me is like a gigantic oxymoron.
Yeah, how can you be aggressively passive?
But right,
like,
exactly.
That doesn't mean anything.
Which, speaking of extremism, the AP released a list of Oathkeepers, which is a far-right militia group located across the country, another white supremacist group.
Scary.
And we have some Oklahomans who have made the cut. A Twitter post from @KOSU Ryan. The Oathkeepers list includes 649 signups in Oklahoma, including a sitting elected official, 3 members of law enforcement, not a surprise, and 5 members of the military, according to data analysis by the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism.
Okay, can we take bets? Law enforcement is definitely Canadian County Sheriff.
Yeah.
100% sure. Like, this even looks like a picture of him right there.
No, do you remember what he said in that press conference?
He's like, I wasn't there. It was peaceful from where I was at. It's like, you just said you weren't there, but now you're saying it was peaceful?
I was like, did you see any violence going on? He was like, well, like, where I was positioned, we just saw a peaceful crowd of people. And like, he pointed at the statue, so we went and found like the statue that he was supposedly buying. You could directly see they had first breached like the Capitol. So I'm like, you clearly, and he was like, I was there for like 5 or 6 hours. So it's like, you were there for 6 hours. 2-3 people died, and you didn't know anything was going on.
And
like,
he thought Oklahomans were going to be mad at him because there was a rumor that he took his cop car up there. He's like, no, I drove my personal vehicle. First of all, neither here nor fucking there. You could have run there on your own 2 feet and it wouldn't have made a difference.
And you remember he deleted his Facebook, and there were even Facebook posts of him saying like, we're gonna rally to DC, like who's going to DC with us. And in the press conference he was like, I never made those. And we were like, is this not your Facebook like post? Like this is what you said.
But it's an open secret that some members of some legislative assistants are members of the Oathkeepers.
Because it was like members of the military too, I think.
Other tweet that we have, a whole delegation votes to deny the election. I'm over this. Twitter post from @NateMorris. 0 GOP nominees for Oklahoma's congressional delegation fully accepted the results and the legitimacy of the 2020 election. They are all currently projected to win. I think somebody sent this the other day. Like Mark Wayne Mullen, Kevin Stitt, and Ryan Walters are just basically all the same guy running for office. And I'm starting to see much more homogeny come out of the far right. It's literally like, who is the most arrogant and ignorant amongst you that is a white guy who talks like this and be able to win?
Like if Mark Wayne Mullen I always just consider him to be doing a bad job. An overwhelming just dump of every terrible thought he's ever had with no consistency or structure.
I just don't seem to understand how you haven't accepted the election results yet. In fact, Oklahoma is one of the states in the nation that has some of the most secure election procedures.
I feel like they know what they're doing. And even with the messaging, labeling the press the enemy of the people, saying schools are indoctrinating children, stripping healthcare access to people, it's just all these things clearly do not make your society better.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and I can't get behind, I really can't understand how millions of people will show out in November and potentially elect some of these people. And like, they're not making the quality of your life any better. No. And I don't necessarily know. And that's, Anna said, I think, on our first episode, talking about James Langford and him going to the border and talking about how fucking terrible it is. I don't know why this resonates with people in rural Oklahoma or just people who are conservatives, because it's just not logical thinking.
But notice how it's like that brand of Republican, though. Like the James Langford brand of Republican, like the Ted Cruz brand of Republican and stuff like that. Like they're the ones who are bringing up like the border crisis and stuff like that. They're still kind of trying to soften their white supremacy a little bit. These guys don't care at all. Like it's so up in front in your face.
I feel like they have a platform like Greg Abbott or DeSantis or Marjorie Taylor Greene. Kevin Stitt's not going to be some famous guy. Ryan Walsh, just because you're trending on Twitter, you don't have this national platform. So I feel like that's what they're trying to create, and it's just to me, I'm like, I feel like it's gonna hurt them in November.
This is like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mitch McConnell and all these like far right extremists that actually work in politics. What sets them aside from like what we're doing in Oklahoma is literally all the Republicans in Oklahoma are trying to play that same card, like using that same structure to try to win over the people of Oklahoma.
Or I remember seeing this piece of media that came out from Trump's Twitter. It was Trump on the front of not the New York Times, but Times Magazine. Mm-hmm. It was having like all of these numbers. And then in the animation, they were like Trump 2024, Trump 2028, Trump 2032. And that's because that's stuff that they will do. Mm-hmm. The idea of like, oh no, we've had term limits and all this sort of stuff. We amend the rules of the game all the time.
When people don't show up to vote, that's you giving them permission to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Absolutely.
If you show up and vote and vote them out, that is you standing up and saying, I will not accept the ideology and the craziest shit.
And the fact that Stephanie Bice fully denied it. Sis, you got elected that year. What are you talking about? If you deny it, then get out of office. Like, all right. The ACLU is suing Stitt on the transgender bathroom bill. Transgender students should be allowed to use the bathroom. What do they want to do? Wait till they get home? Stitt's discriminatory ban and the far right's weird obsession with children using restrooms has major impacts on the health and well-being of transgender students. I don't, just like banning people from using certain bathrooms just like reeks of segregation. And it's like, how can you in good faith tell people which bathrooms they are and aren't allowed to use? Are we really going back?
The argument that's constantly brought up, though, is just like, what if I'm like sexually assaulted or harassed while I'm in the bathroom? But you know who does that more often than not? It's cis straight men who are doing that. The problem is not in folks who are transgender. The problem is in like very, very toxic masculinity and abusive culture.
Literally any bar that I go into, if the woman's bathroom is like a single stall and someone's in there and the men's restroom is open, I'm gonna go in there. It's disgusting. Yeah, there's piss all over the floor and I'm gonna have to touch the toilet seat so I can sit down. But like, I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna kill somebody while I'm in there and be like, my bathroom now, bitch. No more men, non-binary only.
I think it's absolutely like disgusting that they're doing this to protect children in schools, and they're not banning weapons of war.
Any student who's having a bad day could just like easily walk into school with an AR-15 and change history for the rest of forever.
It's like the binary makes no sense. Like, they will say that trans kids don't exist, but then turn a complete blind eye and say that like gun violence isn't real.
Right.
When in reality, it's the literal opposite. Thanks for joining this week's discussion on progressive politics. If you'd like to hear more, make sure that you follow, like, and share our content. And if you want to see an uncut version of today's episode, it will be on our YouTube channel. We'll see you later.